I help an old man cross the same street every day. He never ages. Never changes. Today, I found his face on a tombstone dated decades before I was born. And I realized, he was never trying to cross the street. He was trying to finish something. I have lived on Alder Street for most of my adult life. It is not a long street, not an important one. It bends instead of running straight, as if it changed its mind halfway through becoming a road. At its center is a crosswalk painted so many times the white stripes have thickened like scar tissue. That crosswalk is where I met him, and where I met him again, and again, and again, until repetition made him feel permanent. The old man always waited on the same corner. He wore the same gray coat regardless of season. In summer, it looked unbearably heavy. In winter, too thin. He never asked for help. He simply stood there, hands folded over the curved handle of a wooden cane, eyes fixed on the opposite curb as though it were a promise he had once made to himself. The first time, I offered out of politeness. The second time, habit. After that, it felt like obligation, the kind that grows quietly until you cannot remember agreeing to it. He was light, surprisingly so, when I took his arm. Not fragile, just insubstantial, like holding onto a memory instead of a person. He thanked me every time with the same words, spoken in the same careful rhythm. "You're very kind," he would say. "Not everyone stops." I used to nod, smile, step away once we reached the other side. He never lingered. He never turned back. He would walk a short distance down Alder Street and disappear between the bakery and the closed-down pharmacy, swallowed by a gap that never seemed wide enough to contain a whole man. I never asked his name. He never asked mine. That felt right, like a rule we both understood without speaking. Months passed. Then years. My life shifted in the ordinary ways. Jobs changed, friends moved, hair thinned. The old man did not. His coat never frayed. His hands never shook. His face, deeply lined the first day I saw it, never gained another crease. If anything, he looked clearer over time, as if the world were coming into focus around him instead of the other way around. I noticed the first wrong thing on a Tuesday. The bakery had changed owners, and the smell of burnt sugar hung in the air. The old man was waiting, as always. When I reached for his arm, my fingers brushed something cold, not skin but stone, smooth and unyielding. I pulled back, startled. He looked at me, eyebrows raised in gentle confusion. "Are you all right?" he asked. I laughed it off. People imagine things. Hands go numb. The mind fills in gaps. I took his arm again. This time, it felt normal enough, though I could not shake the sensation that my grip was passing through him, like mist resisting shape. Halfway across the street, I realized something else. There were no cars. Alder Street is not busy, but it is never empty. There is always a delivery truck, a cyclist, someone late for something important. That day, there was nothing. No engines, no footsteps, no sound but our shoes against asphalt. "Do you ever wonder," the old man said, "how many times a place can witness the same kindness before it remembers?" I did not know how to answer that, so I did not. We reached the other side. He thanked me. He walked away. The world exhaled. Sound rushed back in all at once, too loud, too sudden. I avoided the crosswalk after that. Took longer routes. Crossed at corners without paint. Told myself I was busy. Told myself I was done. But habits have their own gravity. A week later, I found myself standing beside him again, as if my feet had decided something my mind had not agreed to. This time, before I could offer, he spoke. "You won't always be here," he said, kindly. "But I will." The words followed me all day. They followed me home. They followed me into sleep, where I dreamed of streets folding in on themselves, of crosswalks leading nowhere, of hands reaching out and passing through mine. The cemetery sits at the far end of Alder Street, beyond where the pavement gives up and turns to gravel. I had not been there in years. No reason to go. Still, on a grey morning that felt borrowed from another season, I found myself walking its paths, reading names I did not know, dates carved in stone like closed doors. I was not looking for him. That is the lie I tell myself when I need to breathe. His photograph was small, oval, set into the headstone. The same face. The same deep lines. The same calm eyes that had looked at me across 100 crossings. Beneath the picture was a name I had never heard, and dates written in stone that suggested a life that ended long before I was born. I stood there for a long time, waiting for the world to correct itself. It did not. Behind me, in the distance, I heard the faint echo of traffic stopping, and somewhere, impossibly close, the tap of a wooden cane against pavement. I did not turn around. I wish I could tell you that I ran when I heard the cane. That I fled the cemetery, swore off Alder Street, burned my shoes, changed cities, changed names. Those would be the right decisions in a story where people learn quickly. I stood there instead, staring at the stone, reading the carved letters until they felt less like words and more like grooves my eyes were falling into. The name did not matter. The dates did. Born. Died. Finished. Long before my life had even been a possibility. You look troubled. His voice came from beside me, not behind me, as if he had always been there and I was only just now catching up. I turned despite myself. He stood between two headstones, cane planted neatly at his side, grey coat unwrinkled, expression gently concerned. He did not look like a ghost. He did not glow. He did not flicker. He looked like a man waiting to cross a street. "That's you," I said, and immediately hated how small the word sounded. He followed my gaze to the tombstone and smiled, not sadly, not fearfully, but with something like fond recognition. "Yes," he said. "That's how I'm remembered." I asked him how he could be there and here. I asked him how long he had been dead. I asked him why he needed help crossing the street if he could stand in a cemetery having polite conversation. The questions came out tangled, tripping over one another. He listened patiently. He always had. "When you live long enough," he said, "you learn that places are stronger than people. Streets, corners, doorways. They remember what happens on them. Sometimes, they keep it." I told him that did not make sense. He nodded. "It rarely does at first." We walked. I do not remember deciding to. We simply began moving, the way we always had, down the path, out of the cemetery, toward Alder Street. The sky had dimmed without becoming night, the light flat and gray like an old photograph. "Why me?" I asked. "You stopped," he said. "Most people don't." That answer settled into me like a weight. I thought of all the days I had almost kept walking. All the days I had been tired, late, distracted. All the days I had helped anyway, because it was easier than refusing. At the edge of the cemetery, he paused. "I never crossed that street alone," he said. "Not once. Even at the end." I realized then that the dates on the stone had not included a place of death. Only a date. Only an ending, without context. The crosswalk waited for us, white paint thick and familiar. Cars idled on either side, engines humming, drivers staring straight ahead, eyes unfocused in that way people get when they are waiting for permission to move. I hesitated. "What happens if I don't?" I asked. He looked at me with something like gratitude. "Then I wait," he said. "Places are patient." The light changed. The world held its breath. I took his arm. This time, I felt everything. The cold. The solidity. The way his weight leaned into mine as if he had been saving it all for this crossing. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the street were deepening beneath us, layers of time stacking under my feet. Halfway across, I understood. I understood that I was not helping him reach the other side. I was helping him remember that he already had. We reached the curb. The sound rushed back. Engines revved. Someone coughed. A bird took off from somewhere nearby. The old man released my arm. "Thank you," he said, "for the last time." He did not walk away. He did not disappear between buildings. He simply was not there anymore, like a word erased so cleanly you question whether it was ever written. I stood on the sidewalk long after the light changed again. It has been years since then. I still live on Alder Street. I still cross at the painted lines. Sometimes I stop when I see someone waiting, even when they do not look old, even when they do not look lost. Sometimes they thank me. Sometimes they do not. And sometimes, when the street is very quiet, and the air feels borrowed, I feel a familiar weight take my arm, and I know that some kindness, once repeated enough times, becomes permanent. That is why I always stop. That is why I always help.